Wondering what's next in your business or personal life? Welcome to Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, a podcast dedicated to helping you with all of life's challenges, discoveries, and opportunities. Whether you're seeking a new career, retirement, or simply wanting to make an impact in your community or the world. Join Jen du Plessis and her guests as they explore how to start, what to do when you're in the thick of a change or growth, and how to leave a mark in this world after breaking through your next achievement. You are moments away from the aha you've been seeking.
Hi there, it's Jen. I am so excited about our next guest, and I wanted to personally invite him and take a few moments just to do his introduction because it deserves it. I'm going to be talking to Mark Victor Hansen, the co-founder and creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Now, we all have read that or read multiple versions of it. He's now written over 300 books, millions and millions of copies sold, and we are going to be joined by Mark, as well as his gorgeous wife, Crystal Hansen, to talk about their new book called Ask, which is Ask, the bridge from your dreams to your destiny. So excited about this. This is a game changer, and it's a game changer because we're in COVID. It would be a game changer if we weren't in COVID, but because we're in COVID, we need to be asking these questions. And one of the things he's going to talk about, I'm so excited about, is this cocoon of COVID. So how will you emerge? Will you emerge a beautiful butterfly from this, or will you crumple up and kind of go away? And so that's what we're here to do, is to help you bridge that gap from your dreams into your destiny. This is an absolute privilege for me to have him on my show. It's something I've wanted for a really long time that you'll experience here in just a few minutes. He is an unbelievable philanthropist. Oh my goodness. I'm going to keep this. I'm not going to unrecord it. Philanthropist. Oh my goodness. And won tons of awards, been on Oprah, been on CNN. You know him. You've probably seen him on the stage someplace. He is worldwide renowned speaker and, really known as a thought leader. And we need leaders right now. We're at a time right now where we need leaders. So I want to leave you with a quote that he says, because that will set up what we're going to be talking about today. And that is this: when you know clearly what you want, become passionately on purpose about it, and you'll wake up every morning excited for life. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mark Victor Hansen and Crystal Hansen. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Success to Significance. I'm your host, Jen du Plessis. Oh my gosh, what a great episode we have ahead of us. I cannot tell you how my heart is just beating out of my chest at the excitement to be able to interview and share with you all kinds of questions with the man himself, Mark Victor Hansen, and his beautiful, gorgeous wife, Crystal Hansen. And so welcome to our show, and thank you so much for joining us.
We're delighted to be here, beyond excited. Thank you.
So happy to be with you.
Thank you. So, I'm going to be reading your bio separately because there's so much of it. But I want to let everybody know, it goes without saying, you are one of the co-authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I've had the wonderful pleasure of meeting, her name escapes me right now, all of a sudden. She co-wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul in the Kitchen, I believe. And I went to a retreat.
Oh, Diana.
Yes.
Done well in the front work.
Yes. She and her husband.
Super elegant women on the whole planet.
Oh my gosh.
Her first husband and Ted is how he goes, but to us, he's that close a friend.
Yeah. Oh, he's a delight. He and I sat out by the pool for probably an hour and a half. I just listened to him. And we went to a retreat together, and it was actually when Frank Shankwitz did his premiere, for the Wishman. And so we were invited to participate in that. It was really great. And boy, what a beautiful woman she is. Yeah, absolutely. So, life's about surrounding yourself with great people No question about it. So I want to kind of talk. The first thing I want to say is obviously you're a thought leader, and you believe that, it's the vision of what's possible, that we weren't put on this earth to be on this earth by itself. We were put on this earth to do beautiful, wonderful things, and it's for us to do. And I think that's the crust of every message that you've said. But I want to go back first, if you don't mind. I want to go back way back before, and can I share this now? Should I share it now? Because we were talking about this beforehand. So I have the second edition that was published in 1993, and you can see it's been used and abused, and that's a good thing. That's a real good thing when something that's so great is used and abused, because there's someone down below us that doesn't like that. And so I had given my mother this book. It was mine. I gave it to my mother. And when she passed away a couple years ago, she had this book on her bedside along with her Bible. And so I got it back. I got to get it back, but I want to share what I read and what I wrote in. And I said, Mom, this book has brought me many hours of pleasure, great stories about anything and everything. It will truly touch your soul and give you several opportunities for reflection about each story and how it affects our lives daily. One day, I will meet the authors. I love you, Jen. And I'm so tickled that I said that. And I mean, the fact that I can actually be here with you is just divine intervention. So before Chicken Soup, right? Before Chicken Soup, tell us about Mark before Chicken Soup. How did this all come together?
What happened is in 1974, I'd been in graduate school with the smartest guy on the planet, as far as I was concerned, Buckminster Fuller. Dr. Fuller was Einstein's best student, invented spherical buildings made out of triangles and Dymaxion cars that ran on 3 wheels and alcohol, ethanol, and methanol. Did brilliant, brilliant things. And I got sucked into believing I should be Bucky rather than me. So I bankrupted a company for $2 million, went bankrupt so fast. I was building in New York City. I built the Wall Street Racquet Club, botanical gardens, aviaries, homes. But I was building out of plastic, PVC, polyvinyl chloride, wrong time. And I crashed, which was my worst experience, which some people are hanging on by their fingernails. So I'm not making fun of it, but because you're so interested in the Bible, the best line in Genesis is, what you meant for my harm, God meant for my good. So for 6 months, I'm sleeping in front of another guy's room in a sleeping bag. And all of a sudden it came to me, I want to be a speaker. And I went to my roommates, 3 of them, and I said, do you know anyone that's young, not a cotton top, not a celebrity, not a doctor, not a lawyer, not a Broadway star, not a celebrity, anything? And they said, yeah, this kid, a few years older than you, was out in Hauppauge, New York, Chip Collins, who became my best friend and mentor, talking to real estate people. And I went out and watched him mesmerize an audience for 3 hours, at the end of which I gave him my hand. I said, I'm Mark Victor Hansen. I'm asking to take you to lunch. And then I want to ask you how I can do what you're doing. He said, look, kid, the chance you make it is 1 in 1,000. You're not going to make it. Well, long story short, I did 1,000. Tony Robbins and I were talking. We both did 1,000 talks a year the first 3 years in the business, because if you take massive action, you're going to get, like and you've done in your business, you get massive result. And then everyone in the talk said, man, that is the greatest story, because I'm Jack and Mark, I'm the storyteller, story writer. And, he's a Harvard third in his class genius. I'm not taking anything away from Dr. Canfield. That would not be my program. I love Jack. But the point is, I wrote the stories that made the book at the front end and most of them. So people said, yeah, the story in a book. And I did, my first book was back in 1974, was Stand Up, Speak Out, Win. I said to these little audiences of 6, 20, 50 people, I said, this isn't a New York Times bestseller. This isn't a national bestseller. It's certainly not an international bestseller, but it is my bestseller. And it'd be my privilege to assign it to you, your spouse, your kids. And if you got a dog, I'll do your dog in the book.
Right.
And I sold 20,000 copies. I tripled my income. I went from about 70 grand a year to $210,000 that fast. And I thought, wow, I'm going to keep writing. And now I've written 312 books, sold 500 million books, been 59 times #1 New York Times. So as far as I know, nobody has been more than that. And I want everyone to write a book. And if they go to my website, markvictorhansen.com, we'll teach people how to do that, because everyone needs to take that beautiful wisdom and story out of their head and deploy it on paper.
Yeah, I love that. And I did see that. I saw that you definitely, you have a program, you have a 12 module program, and Look, I think it's really great when people can write books. I'm fascinated by the fact that you can write so many, because when I wrote my first book, Launch, How to Take Your Business to New Heights, I said, "Oh, there's no more left in me," right? And then I was asked to write a couple of collaborative books, and I said, "How did I get that from me? I don't really know where all this came from." And so, how do you come up with these new ideas? How is it that people tend to be one and done with the book, and they take forever to write it? By the way, they take forever, and 8 years, which is crazy, long time to write it. And then they're one and done. So where do you get the inspiration to write more and, come up with more ideas?
Pictured into spiritual things, Genesis 1:28 says, in the beginning, God created you and I in his image and likeness. I define that to say being two things. You and I are here to be full-time creators.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm rich now, I've got $1 million or 10 or whatever the number is, rich is relative. And then number two is that you're here to contribute, and the greatest amongst you is servant of all. So if you've got it, you've got to create it. And that's why Crystal and I created Ask, because we've traveled to 80 countries around the world, talked to 7 million people, and we find great people, wonderful people, sophisticated people, educated people. But the difference between the people who succeed a little and those who succeed a lot is they ask, and I'm asking people to think bigger. And I did, Conan says the best-selling set of tapes they ever had was mine, How to Think Bigger Than You Ever Thought You Could Think. Because it's not that we think too big, it's that we think too little. And Crystal, who's a certified hypnotherapist and a lot more degrees, but the point is, she says we don't use that 18 billion brain cells. We got 4 times the talent, skill, and inner genius that we've ever used. So once you start pulling it out, you got to let it rock, and you got to write 5 or 6 books at the same time, because you never have writer's block on 4 or 5 books at the same time.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I know that, generally we're dreamers, right? We are dreamers. There's no doubt about it. What do you think is the reason that it's that gap? And I know that that's part of Ask, right? Is the bridge from your dreams to destiny. But what do you think is the core issue? Is it procrastination? Is it fear? Is it, I'm sure there's 1,000 different things, but you've been around a long time and you've shared with so many people, and so many people have shared their stories with you. What do you think is really the issue that people don't go to their full potential?
It's really 7 roadblocks. I'm going to let Crystal hit on the top highlight of each one.
Well, I was just going to say, Jen, it's an important question and something we should all reflect on, because, when we're born as children, we just have this beautiful ability to ask for anything. Our spirits are shining, we're new, we're fresh out of heaven. So we ask about everything. We want to know who, what, when, where, why, and how. And we're not ashamed to ask for more. But then over time, depending on how we were raised, what happened in our school experience, what happened with our job experience, careers, military, whatever it is, life starts to shut us down.
Yeah.
We start to get afraid to ask for what we want. We start to become ashamed to not know everything. Or we look at other people and look at them as, unqualified because they don't know anything. And it's so sad, because that beautiful spirit that we were born with, that childlike spirit where really it's spirit stabbing at us going, come on, you're here to evolve, learn, and grow. And suddenly that gets shut down. And we stop asking, we stop wondering, we stop being curious. And in fact, Mark and I identified in the book, we talk about the 7 roadblocks to asking. And what we discovered is that each and every person has at least one of those roadblocks, if not all of them, And so it's really important for us to look specifically at each of those roadblocks. We have beautiful stories around each of those. And really start to come clean with ourselves and ask those questions like, what is it which of these roadblocks is stopping me? And we can go into the roadblocks specifically if you want to.
Well, I want to ask you a very specific question, and it might pull out one of the roadblocks, because we want them to get the book, right? We want them to go get the book, because it's taking action. We really want them to take action. But when I think about my story, and I'm not going to go into my whole story, but my dad was an alcoholic, right? My mom was a verbal abuser. It was not the best childhood, and I had limiting beliefs for a long time. And Not that I'm cured. Let me put it that way. I'm not cured from all my limiting beliefs. So I still have many of them. But, in the recent couple of years, I finally have broken through this one particular limiting belief. And that was the limiting belief that I was going to amount to nothing. My uncle called me Jenny, who ain't got a penny. Told me I was going to be nothing. Told me I was going to be just like them. And so all my life, I spent my entire life proving instead of living. And I got to the point where I said, I'm done proving to everybody. I want to start living. And so when I look back on, and anyone who's listening here, if they've got that big, sort of eat that frog, Brian Tracy, big frog of limiting belief, how do we get past that one? Because that one stems from childhood. And I think for me, that's what I see most of the time, is something that comes from childhood that is just something that people can't get over.
Right. And as a transformational life coach, what I teach my clients is that, while it appears that life is sort of happening to us from some source outside of ourselves, and it's kind of coming at us and we're ducking and dodging and trying to keep the balls up in the air, the reality is that our true life experience is created right here inside of us, in our minds and in our hearts. And so until we're willing to take that time to deliberately sit down with ourselves and start to do the self-examination, which is really involves heavily this process of asking the right questions of ourselves and then answering them truthfully. Because what Mark and I determined is there are actually 3 channels through which to ask. And those are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And each of those channels is important. And when you start to ask these questions, and we give very specific questions in the book, you start to reveal the truth to yourself. You start to reveal that you absolutely are enough, that this baggage you've been carrying around that really came from out there somewhere, and you let it in, it became part of your processing system. It's not true. It's not true, because what happens is when we hear something enough times, our subconscious mind doesn't discern truth. Our conscious mind does. If you're analyzing something, you're saying, oh, no, that's not true. I can discern that. But if somebody that you love and trust or care about, someone who has any kind of influence in your life, tells you something enough times, or you hear a similar message enough times in your life, you start to develop a program. You believe it. At some level, you're operating at this subconscious level as if that is true, as if Jenny don't have a penny, until you sit down and you start taking that time with yourself and challenging those entrenched programs and start asking your way forward. Is that true? Where did it come from? It came from their experience. Yeah. They had a different experience than I did. They don't believe they deserve anything. And what was their childhood like? Well, the answers will come to you. If you look at their childhood, you will discover why they believe that. And then you say, why does that have anything to do with me? And how would he know what my destiny is when my destiny is only determined by myself and God, working in a partnership together? Yeah. So this questioning process that we talk about in the book is so empowering. It's so freeing in terms of being able to eliminate that baggage and really set your life on the ultimate course, so that you truly can achieve that ultimate destiny that you have, that is waiting for you out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, it is so true. And really that's how it came to fruition for me, is that I really got, instead of, I love this uncle. I love him. My mom's one of 10. I'm one of 37 first cousins, plus now all the married people. So plus all the extra children that everybody has, right? Big family. And, they were really poor. I mean, he was born in a park, in a tent, back in the day along the river. And, the older he gets, the more he tells me about that period of time. He's a multimillionaire, and won't buy a pair of shoes for himself. Just won't. And so it's his limiting belief that he pushed onto me at an age that was very impressionable. And I've gotten to the point now where I forgive him. I've forgiven him. I didn't for a long time, but I forgave him. So, I love that whole process. And I love that this book particularly, and I'm glad you brought up the question of asking yourself and asking others and asking God. this book in particular is going to be a great book for everyone for the holidays, to give away.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you about the asking others, because when I saw that, I said, wait a minute, hold on. If I just forgave him, right? If I just got through that process, is he the other that I want to go ask again? Do I want to pull myself in there? So do we need to be careful about some of the others that we ask so that it doesn't, the naysayers in our lives?
Right. I think it's very important to have boundaries. And I think the question you ask yourself is there any benefit to opening it up that one? Do I trust his evaluation of things? Do I trust his assessment? While I love him, and I understand he's at a place that is the result of his own state of consciousness.
Yeah.
Is there anything that he can offer me that's important? Is there anything important that I need to learn from him? It sounds to me, and you have to ask yourself that question, but the answer is no.
Yeah.
And so it is important to ask the right questions to the right people. And it's funny because, when it comes to asking, people are really afraid to ask. We're afraid to ask for help, assistance, advice, all of those things. And when Mark and I looked at the studies that were done on asking when we wrote this book, people go into the process of asking like, oh, they're so hesitant and so afraid to ask.
Yes.
But studies reveal going in, people thought that they would either be perceived as being stupid, ignorant, uninformed if they asked for advice or something or help, or just pushy and obnoxious. And the studies reveal none of those things are true. If you're just willing to ask for what you want, for what you need, in a humble and respectful way, that you are 80% more likely to get your question answered, your request granted,
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're asking
forward.
So there's like no reason not to ask. And, in the book, we just give so much evidence of why that's true. And we tell these incredible stories of people who realized at some point in their lives that it was important to keep asking. And the results were phenomenal. And when you read these stories, you realize that that's you. You can do the same thing and more.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I want to kind of talk about, I was thinking, as you were talking about that, I was thinking about all the people in my summit the last couple of days that I would say, any questions? Nobody, right? So I would ask a question back, right? And it's amazing. And people are like, well, I'm an introvert and I don't like asking questions, and then someone would finally go, okay, well, I'm going to ask the question again since no one's going to say anything. But really, that's the person who gets the most out of that interaction.
Yeah. It's the person who gets the most out of life. It's the person who gets the most out of life. If we can come back to that childlike place that, we were all born with it. We're born perfect. Come back to that place, start getting in touch with that beautiful curiosity that we all had as children. Yeah. We need to wonder. I tell one of the roadblocks is naivete. And it's such an important one. I tell the story of how we hired this beautiful Filipino woman when my children were very young. My girls were born 16 months apart. So it was a little crazy trying to keep that. And I had an older son. Going, right? So she would come every day and she'd cook these beautiful dishes from her homeland. She was so lovely and gracious. She showed up one morning with this fruit and cut it up on a plate and said, here, Crystal, try this. And it was this juicy orange fruit. And I bit it and I was like, this is the best fruit I've ever tasted. Melda, what is this? And she goes, it's a mango. And I was like, a mango? How come I've never tasted a mango before? That's crazy. I was thinking, I've been all over the world. How come I've never encountered a mango? Been to Europe, everywhere. And I said, where did you get this? Thinking, wow, she must have, imported them from the Philippines. She said, at the grocery store.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, how did I not know that? How did I not know that these wonderful, best fruit I've ever tasted is sitting right at my grocery store? And it made me think, what else do I not know? What else? Yeah. Because I'm just naive that it's there and available to me. What else do I not know? I grew up in Idaho where there are lots of potatoes and no mangoes, Right. But we all kind of, right? We're kind of imprisoned by our own naivete. And I thought, what people am I passing by every day that might be my new best friend, my next business partner, somebody who could be a great advocate or to whom I could advocate for, So all of these things like opportunities, people, we're naive. We pass them by every day. What if we just became wildly curious, wildly inquisitive, started asking, started wondering, how much more would our lives open up to the beautiful gifts and rewards that are out there for us if we're willing to take this asking journey? And that's why Mark and I are saying, get the book and take the journey with us.
Yeah.
If
Gosh,
I may,
I'm reminded of some. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, can you remember what you're reminded of?
Oh, yeah. I'll remember.
Okay, good. I want to go back to your uncle, who's a lovely guy, I'm sure, and now a multimillionaire. But remember, Crystal said his state of consciousness, and what you've got to do is ask yourself, hey, wait a second, what am I supposed to accomplish? Remember, our subtitle is Ask, the bridge from your dreams to your destiny. If you're alive, and that includes everyone listening, no matter how tough it is right now, because we've all been put in this cocoon that's a surprise to us, right? And our metaphor is that you can't look at a caterpillar, predict a cocoon, or a beautiful butterfly. We're about to break out of the cocoon, I think, and we can talk to that in a minute. But you've got to ask, who are you asking? Because when I asked the wrong question, I said, how do I go bankrupt? I checked the book out of the library, How to Go Bankrupt by Yourself and Crash and Burn. And not that was good, bad experience. But the point is, you got to keep asking yourself, who is it that can help me grow and thrive? Because the prayer of Jabez unequivocally says, bless me, O Lord, a lot. And number 2, expand my abilities, expand my territory, expand my talent. And number 3, keep me from evil. And that's Old Testament stuff, but the same in the New Testament. The point is that every one of us is supposed to be asking for wisdom, asking for growth, asking for what your dream team is. And Andrew Carnegie, the richest man of his time, worth today in today's dollars, $4 billion. So even richer than Jeff Bezos. I'm a scholar in Dr. Napoleon Hill and his teacher, Andrew Carnegie. But Andy,
yeah.
And where do you live? I forgot to ask.
I'm in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. I like right along the Blue Ridge Mountains. I'm 60 miles west.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Hunt
Good.
country.
Yeah. You go to Andrew Carnegie's house, it said, in marble, it says authors of the wealth of the nation. I'd change it to world, but then no one can get rich without enriching all others, which is true. And then
Absolutely.
The third thing is, he said, I looked at what Christ did, and he had 12 disciples that all brought him up until one guy sideways, a guy named Judas did the wrong thing and kiss of death, as it were, and lost his silver and everything, and his life and his soul. But the point is, every one of us has got to keep picking people that'll take us to our next level, because you've got a long way to go. Like, I'm going to live to be 127 options for renewal. And what I'm teaching is, if you have a high quality life, you want a high quality life. And, what's the maximum you can contribute, not the minimum. And unfortunately, we got too many people buying into minimums now, and they're wrecking themselves and destroying their soul, because your soul has to grow. Your soul has to become, and the spirit runs the mental, which runs the physical. And that's why we say, ask yourself, ask others, ask God. And ask God, most people listening need to know, how do you do that? And the way we're teaching it is 400 times before you go to sleep, you say, God, what's your destiny for me? God, what's your destiny for me? God, what's your destiny for me? And know that you're going to wake up in the middle of the night and tell your sweetiekins, hey, I listen to Mark and Crystal. It seems a little weird, and I've never heard it before, but I'm going to know my destiny in the middle of the night, because it takes, Crystal will teach you, it takes that long to get into the depth of your subconscious.
Yeah.
But you came in knowing, right? The author and finisher of our faith is inside. So God in you. So write down in detail. Don't just say write play or write book. You got to write out what you're going to write, and you got to get up and turn on the lights and do it.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love, and it is funny because, I actually don't do it at night, but I think I'm going to now hearing this, but I don't, so in the morning, I'm always talking. One of the prayers that I say every morning is, Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say, and keep me out of your way every day.
I love it.
Yeah. Because, it's he's guiding me today.
Every morning we wake up and going backwards a little while, we're falling in love, and we're two hearts becoming one soul. A guy sees us we were living in California at the time. We were at Costco in Costa Mesa at Mother's having a green meal. And the guy next to us, a man of cloth, about 90 years old, white collar and all that. And he said, can I tell you I see that you guys are really in love. Can I tell you what will keep your marriage together forever? I said, I didn't expect to get interrupted, but yeah, tell us. He said, I've been head of Billy Graham Ministries for 70 years in marriage. And one thing, praying out loud is what does it, and together. And every morning we wake up and do an hour of prayer. And Yeah, and our favorite place outside of America is Italy, and we like Florence, and you've seen the David, I'm sure, and been there. But
Yep.
they say, Michelangelo, how you make a David, the world's greatest sculptor? He said, I chipped you out everything, not David. And that's what your prayer does every morning, and the same for us. Different words, but the point is you're talking to Big G, and Big G always answers.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. I've never called him Big G. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, what I was gonna say, just a couple little things, and I want to ask you some questions about COVID as we kind of, round out our conversation today. Is, that as you were talking, Crystal, what I was thinking is the acres of diamonds that we have underneath us. People so often, and I was talking about this at the summit, I talk about it in my coaching all the time, is we all have binoculars on. We're always looking for the thing, looking.
Yep.
And maybe I have a book in there that you can help me with, but we're always looking with binoculars to the next thing that's going to make us happy and make us rich and make us have better relationships. And we really have acres of diamonds under us that we just have to look down, and dig for, and dig in our own souls, right? To be able to find and to manifest. And so that's what I was thinking when you said that. The other thing I wanted, to say is that, my mom said to me one day, you have such a great quality of life, honey. It's such a great quality of life. And I don't know, I was talking to her about taking the kids wherever we were going at the time or something. And it really struck me. And I said, Mom, I actually don't want a quality of life. That to me is like keeping up with the Joneses. What I'm looking for is a life of quality.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that distinction.
That shift tells the whole story.
Yeah.
Tells the whole story. And that's when my quest, came to where I'm at now, in my life. And building my life first as my core, and then the business. The life first and then the business, because people focus so much on money, business, and everything else is peripheral and it's not protected. Right?
Right, exactly. One of my favorite questions is, God, show me the greatest expression of me for which you made me. Like, what is that ultimate thing? And like you said, it's not something you can find outside of yourself.
Yeah.
You have to go inside, find your treasure.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. So let's talk about COVID, right? The cocoon. I love that, the cocoon. This COVID cocoon that we're in, and I know that you have, and we talked about this in the green room about the book that you have, the ebook that you have. Oh gosh, I can't find the name of it right now. But how to stay up. Yeah, how to be up in down times. And, and I know that you broke this into, and gosh, this is a gift that you're giving us, right? You broke it into soul, mind, and body tips, right? And so I immediately was drawn to the body tips. You're going to die when you hear this. There's so much in common. I'm just so funny. So I printed that one page, which is number 7, right? The tips. Is quarantine psychologically changing, right? It's not a long chapter. It's just a quick tip. But I really love, because we're on this sort of fatigue with COVID, but I really love the one thing that you had 3 tips, but one of the things that you had is just simply do 10 to 20 push-ups a day. Now, here's the funny thing. I have been gamifying my physical activity during COVID because it's so easy for us to work 100 hours a day, right? Because we have nothing else to do. And if we're not going to watch Netflix, right? And so I started gamifying, and here the honest to goodness truth. So every morning before I have my tea, I do 15 push-ups on my countertop. That's my gamification, right? And then I come into my office, and before I can sit, I have to do a plank for 30 seconds, right? So I have gamified everything. So I love your analogy of the cocoon, and that something's going to emerge from this cocoon. And Crystal, what you said, it's not what COVID or life, but in these last several months, I've been saying it's not what COVID has done to us, but what has COVID done for us? Will we emerge as a butterfly transformed, or will we sort of curl up and shrivel away? So tell us about some of the strategies we should be thinking about doing, whether it's in Ask, because again, it's asking questions, or whether it's in the contents of this. what should we be doing to ensure that our soul is saved on the backside of this?
Well, first of all, here's what we're recommending on Ask is that for Christmas, don't buy one, buy two, and find somebody that's depressed, despondent, disconsolate, or worst case, suicidal, because we've been doing, over 100 podcasts. We've done a lot with the greatest psychiatrists, and psychiatry is going crazy with people trying to X out of life, because that's how I felt when I went bankrupt and lost $2 million in one day and hurt myself and a lot of other people. So, and then go through every question and ask so you transform yourself, because the Apostle Paul said, be ye transformed by the self-renewing of your mind, right? Because that's soul and then mind. So, and everybody can do that. And the other day we got 121 letters in a day with people saying, oh my God, this book has changed my life. It just has done it for me because no one ever taught me to ask. I mean, as far as I can see now, and this is my statement, I hope I'm talking for my wife, but since Socrates, nobody's tried to be fully aware of all the questions. And that's how we wrote the other book, How to Be Up and Down Times with Mitzi Perdue. And she is just amazing. She does 22 chickens a week. They're all organic and that. But what we said in that book is there wasn't one COVID problem. COVID is a problem, right? And you ought to have hydroxychloroquine and zinc and Z-Pak in advance, because I got it 8 weeks ago and got rid of it in a day because I overdosed.
Zinc every day. Zinc every day. Zinc every day for me. Yeah. Among other things. Yeah.
Vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
Yeah, because what you're really saying is correct, is your nutrition and your immune system is what's got to be critical. And the people that are compromised, they should be doing, back to your thing about the 50 push-ups, and they got to be taking the nutraceuticals and the herbs and all that, all of which we talked to. Next one, so you got the disease, then you got the fear, then you got the media, then you got politics, then you got China, which is totally working against us. I've been going to China for 22 years, up until 3 years ago, and we decided, hey, wait a second, this guy just wrote a book like Hitler. Hitler said, today, Germany, tomorrow, the world. The head of China's first line in his book, you can read, is hegemony, which is a word no one in America knows, but that means world domination. And you go look it up after this and you go, holy cow, I don't want to learn Chinese. That's not my goal. And I do not like oppression, and they've got 1 million people that are slaves. It's a little bit heavy, but the point is, we're saying, look, if you read the front of the book, the first chapter I wrote, when we come out of this thing, we're not going to do 50 billion, we're going to do 50 trillion with 7 businesses that I talk about, any which you can participate in, because while the mortgage business is booming today, the airline business has been crushed. Today, the governor of Maryland said you cannot fly in and out of Maryland. You go, what in the hell? You got no right to do that. That's anti-liberty as far as I'm concerned. It makes zero sense to me. And you can't have Thanksgiving, humma. This is not okay with me, because I believe, I'm a constitutionalist. I believe
us too. Oh my goodness. Yeah, us too. We're not political anymore. We moved from that and said, I'm just a constitutionalist. So I just
exactly.
But
our Constitution.
Yep.
We believe our founding fathers were all divinely guided. And I believe that Jefferson and his teacher, who was 56 and he was 26, wrote that thing, the Declaration, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the happiness of pursuit if you do it backwards. Everyone should be happy, but you've got to have freedom. And freedom means you got to have free enterprise. And what we're teaching in that book, subtly, and I've written other books like 1 Minute Millionaire, that's a bestseller and stuff like that, is that an entrepreneur finds a problem, which everybody can do, fixes it, scales it, and it makes a vast profit.
Yeah. Yeah, that it truly is. So now I have to ask, I just have to go back real quick and ask you a question. What were you studying when you went to college?
What happened is I was going to be a doctor of physiology, and then the head of physiology was working with NASA. I said, you got to go meet the smartest guy in the world. And I sat in the audience with 5,000 people at Buckminster Fuller. And he said, we're going to talk about 10 things: synergetic, energetic, geometry, cosmogony, cosmology, epistemology, cartography. And I didn't know one of the words. And I thought, God, I was sophomoric. I thought I knew everything. And then I became a student of Bucky's and comprehensivity.
That's
great. How do you make the whole system work for 100% of humanity is what
that's interesting. Yeah, because I was going to be a cardiologist, took a psychology or a physiology class, got turned off from it for some reason. I don't know, because it was totally pre-med. Ended up going into architectural design and construction engineering. So, as you're mentioning the names, I'm going, yep, studied, know them. Absolutely. Been there, done that. Yep. Okay. So I want to ask you, this podcast is called Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. One of the reasons I'm so thankful that it came out, somebody upstairs was looking out for me because I've been planning to bring this out. I'd been interviewing people this time last year in preparation to bring it out in the beginning of the year. And it's really turned into something wonderful because so many people are at home and they're saying, do I go back to my job when it's time to go back to my job? Is this the sign that I need, to be an entrepreneur, to go, find my destiny in life? What do you tell someone who's just wavering? And it all is the bridge. I mean, this is moving from success to significance, or, breaking through that glass ceiling, who's saying, I'm just afraid to take that first step. What do you say to them when they're afraid of a COVID, and I know you're going to say, go back and ask questions, but is there any tactical or strategic advice of, just doing it? Like take that chance that you could share with everyone?
Right. I mean, you definitely always have to take action. I mean, we always say there are 3 things you have to do to prepare to be a good asker. And the first one is belief. Mm-hmm. You have to believe that the answers are out there for you. You really do. Awesome. You have to believe that. And you have to also believe that you deserve it. You deserve the answers. You deserve the best. And so going in with that belief is really, really important. And then the second part of preparing to be a good asker is action. As you start asking these questions, you're going to get breakthroughs. You're going to ask a question of yourself or other people. You're going to get an idea. You're going to ask another question. You're going to get an illumination you didn't have before. You're going to ask another question. You'll start to see a solution. Well, at that point, you must take action. Action is part of the preparation. Belief, action, and then imagination is the next one, because we're the only animal that has imagination, the ability to imagine something, the ability to create a stage in our mind where we play out any scenario, right, any possible thing we could ever want. And so Mark and I say, when we start asking our questions, we say there are 3 phases to the questions. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? And what specific actions do I need to take to get there? Well, in that second stage, where do I want to be? You need to use your imagination. And we just say, go to the nth degree of your ultimate greatest scenario and say, in this greatest scenario, what am I doing every day? In this perfect career situation that I'm in, who am I talking to? Who are my clients? What's important to me? What makes my heart sing? And in that way, you literally start to engineer this perfect life that you want backwards from the ultimate place. So it's one of the most powerful exercises you can do.
Yeah. And I'm laughing about that because I always tell everybody, and I have a screenshot that I use when I'm speaking. It's a picture of a soup bowl, ironically, a soup bowl with a fork in it, that so many of us spend our lives eating soup with a fork, right? Yeah. Every activity is just because someone out there told them they should do the activity, or they think they should, or they saw someone take that action. So I guess I should. But at the end of the day, eating soup with a fork, you're never full. You're never fulfilled, ever.
Well, that's why at the end of the book, we show all the questions that you got to become a great question asker, but you got to set great and inspiring goals for you. And like when Jack and we started, I interviewed all the world's best-selling fiction and nonfiction, 101 authors. I didn't ask how to write. I think I knew how to write. I said, tell me how you marketed, how you sold, how you promoted. Wayne Dyer, what did you do? James Michener, what did you do? Scott Peck, what the heck did you do? And I created a wild business plan, but then I added what the goals would be, $1.5 million in a year and a half. We basically did it, and then 5 million, and 10 million, 50 million a year. And I said, I'd sell 1 billion books. And I can tell you, because 144 people turned us down, they all went, this guy's nuts. Nobody can sell. Well, look, I'm halfway to goal, and I'm en route. And then they said, well, you can't outsell the Bible. So I did a chicken soup for the soul Bible, and we sold 70,000 a week at Walmart, and it was purple, like the color you're wearing and I'm wearing, and God's highest color, top of the electromagnetic spectrum and all that. Yeah. And we said, hey, wait a second. Everyone out there's got a destiny, and what the reason we did that, from your dreams to your destiny, as a subtitle on our book asked, is because everyone says, I can't do this now. I'm shut down with COVID. No, just the opposite. We're saying, get the book, go through the questions, literally write them out, dictate them, whatever you got to do, but you will transform your life now, because this is going to be over soon. For whatever reason, it's going to be over, whether it's good nutrition or vaccine, which we don't
Treatments,
treatment,
whatever.
Whatever
therapy. I don't
it
know
is,
what's going to get us out of it, or more or less consciousness and spirit will get us out of it more than anything else.
Yeah. And it's funny because, as we're talking about how COVID's going to be over, I have this visual of people coming out of the cellar after a tornado, right? They open up those tornado doors and they come out and they look around, right?
Yeah.
And the question is, when you come out and you look around, what's that going to be like for you? Is it going to be, yes, I'm finally out, let's go, there's life to live? Or is it going to be coming out and falling to your knees and saying, I don't have anything left, I don't know what to do?
Right.
And I want the former. I don't want the latter.
First of all, I love what you just said. And the reason we sold more books than anyone is I wrote a book called The Miracle of Tithing, which businessmen say, what's the miracle of tithing? And I said, you haven't tithed enough lately. I said, you got to tithe.
You haven't been tithing, that you don't know the answer. Yeah, right.
I say you got to tithe your thinking, your time, your talent, your choices. And then the bonus T is Thanksgiving. And what happens is you've got to be thankful for wherever you are and say, hey, wait a second, we're going to get out of this and we're going to make something wonderful. And it's back to Joseph and many colored coat. He went through the tortures of the damned and pit and slavery and jail for 13 years and then came out and ruled the nation because he was ready, because he kept doing his inner work. And we're saying we got to work with God in us and say, hey, wait a second, the doors are going to open. We're going to come out, and there might be a little bit of a mess out there, but what are you going to do about it? Not get down on your knees and cry and say it's over. What are you going to do to make it more magnificent, more wonderful, better than it has ever been? And if you really cut the crap, 99% of reality is invisible, and it starts with spirit. So you got to keep asking yourself, God in me, what is it that I can do now to manifest something great for the rest of humanity? Because you want to be the teachers, students, disciples said, boss, what do we got to do? He said, be a servant, the greatest amongst you, a servant of all.
Yeah. And go out and teach other people. And, and I think people are looking for leaders now. It's not even I think, I know that leadership is a big thing right now. Who's going to lead us out? And, and I'm not looking for yes, leaders are good. I want to get some input from them. And I guess that's the questions to others, right? But I too want to be a leader.
Right. And we should all be asking, where we can lead.
Yeah.
And how to find our leadership skills. We all have leadership skills within if we're willing to find them, if we're willing to ask the right questions and dig deep. And the other thing is really listening to the answers and being courageous enough to follow the promptings you get when you start to ask those questions. You have to have a certain amount of courage in this asking journey. You can't collapse. You can't give up. You need to press forward, because all the information is out there for you and you're going to get it when you start asking, but be ready to press forward with courage.
Yeah, I love that. Any parting thoughts you want to give us as we end our time here together, which is so disappointing, but any parting thoughts that you'd like to give to everybody? Because we're going to release this before Christmas. We're going to make sure it's released before Christmas in enough time that people are going to hear and see this and be able to share it with people. So what would you like to say?
Well, I would like to say, definitely get the book. I think you're going to be for $16. It's a life changer. But also, we want to invite people to join us. We have a book club that we would like to invite you to. So once you get the book, go to askthebookclub.com and join us for that book club discussion, because it just keeps that asking journey alive. And we want everyone to become master askers.
I love that.
And we'd love everyone to do it. 2 respective websites so they can get to their destiny, because our destiny is helping everyone else get to their destiny. And that includes 8 billion people, which no one's ever done before. And as this thing about your leadership is always you got to lead yourself before you can lead somebody else. And if you really lead yourself effectively, then you have positional authority, not just title authority.
Right.
And it's more important. And what happens is we need more leaders now than ever before. And we got to think bigger, because there's 8 billion of us concurrently living on the planet. So we ask everybody to go to askthebookclub.com, and we want to help you become master askers.
I love that. Yeah. And I'll make sure I have the link in. I'll make sure that that we do that. so that everybody has access to everything, and that we start sharing this. So again, I want to say thank you so much. How beautiful has this interview been, that it's touched my life. It will definitely touch my life forever. And I thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day and responding to my request. How nice was that? It just speaks volumes about you. It definitely does. And what a beautiful couple you are. I wish you the best in your pursuit of your destiny as time goes. Wait a minute. I need to see. I'm looking in the camera. I need to see that again. Let me see that again. That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. And, I wish my husband was here to say hi to you guys, but, he left. He was.
We'll make that happen somewhere along the line.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll show him that online. So I again want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I know that both of you have touched someone's lives just by them listening to this, and you'll be touching millions and millions of more to come. So thank you again. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We'll see you next time on Success to Significant.
You've been listening to Success to Significance with Jen du Plessis, the #1 podcast for people wanting to give more value and make an impact. Loved this episode? Be sure to subscribe right now at www.jenduplessis.com/S2S for more stories, strategies, and thoughts to help you gain significance and success. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Join us next week for another breakthrough episode. Thank you for listening.